A father in Virginia woke suddenly at 3 a.m., pulled his two children from their beds without a word of explanation, and hurried his entire family outside into the freezing October night. 15 minutes later, everyone understood why a miracle of the Virgin Mary that saved two lives. The warning came in a dream. Two simple words spoken by a woman in blue. Get out now. Before we continue, share in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. Let's see how far the miracles of the Virgin Mary have reached. And if you haven't yet joined our family, subscribe now, because here, each day, we witness the tender love and mighty power of the Mother of God. His name was Michael Reynolds, 42, a self-employed carpenter who lived in a small town outside Richmond. He worked 6 days a week, sometimes 7. Roofs, decks, kitchen remodels, custom cabinets, whatever paid the bills. He left the house before dawn most mornings and returned after dark, tools still dusty in the bed of his pickup. No regular paycheck. No sick days. If he stopped, the money stopped. That was the reality he carried every day. Michael loved his family deeply. He just never knew how to show it in ways they could feel every day. Jacob, 12, was quiet, good at math, always reading adventure books under the covers with a flashlight. Grace, 10, was brighter, louder, the one who filled the house with questions and drawings taped to the fridge. They shared a bedroom on the second floor, two single beds pushed against opposite walls, posters of planets and horses, a small rug between them that never stayed straight. Michael would stand in the doorway some nights after they were asleep, watching their chests rise and fall, feeling a quiet ache because another day had passed without him really talking to them. Laura, his wife of 15 years, was the one who held everything together. She worked part-time at the library, read to the children every evening, prayed the rosary with them before lights out. A simple plaster statue of Our Lady stood on the mantel above the fireplace in the living room. Every afternoon, Laura lit a small votive candle in front of it, knelt for a few minutes, and spoke softly, asking for protection, for strength, for peace in the house. Michael never joined her. He respected it. He would sit in the recliner across the room scrolling through job photos on his phone or step outside to check the truck. Each person prays their own way, he used to say when Laura asked if he wanted to sit with them. She never pushed. She just kept lighting the candle. Thursday started like any other. Michael spent the day framing a new deck on the far side of town. Cold wind off the river made the work slower. He got home at 8:15, shoulders heavy, hands stiff from gripping the nail gun. Laura had kept his plate warm in the oven, baked chicken, mashed potatoes with gravy, green beans. She set it on the table without a word, poured him coffee, sat across from him while he ate. The kitchen was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. "The kids already eat?" he asked. They did. "Jacob has a science test tomorrow." He went up early. Grace followed him. Michael nodded. He ate slowly. Laura watched him. "You okay?" "Just tired. Got to finish that deck by tomorrow night, or the client starts docking pay." "You work too hard. It's what keeps the lights on." She reached across the table and touched his wrist for a second. He gave a small smile, finished the food, rinsed the plate, took a shower. As he walked down the hallway, he saw the children's door cracked open. A thin line of hall light fell across the carpet. He paused. Jacob lay on his side, one arm hanging off the mattress, book still open on the pillow. Grace was curled tight under her quilt, stuffed bear tucked against her chest. Michael stood there longer than usual. Something in his chest tightened. He almost stepped inside to pull the covers up or kiss their foreheads. But he did not want to wake them. He closed the door softly and went to his own room. Laura was already in bed, reading a paperback by the lamp. He slid under the blanket. "Good night," she said, closing the book. "Good night." He closed his eyes. Sleep came fast, deep, heavy sleep from a long day under the open sky. The house went still. Furnace clicked off. Wind moved lightly through the trees outside. No one heard anything unusual. No one expected anything. The dream came without warning. Michael found himself in total darkness. No walls, no floor, no sky, just black pressing in from every side. He tried to move, but his body refused. Panic started to rise. Then a light appeared. Not bright like headlights. Soft, warm, like late afternoon sun filtering through leaves. The light drew closer until it surrounded him. Inside it stood a woman. He could not make out her face clearly. The glow was too strong. But he saw the shape of her robe, long, flowing, deep blue. Her hands were folded gently. A calm came over him that made no sense. Peace he had never known before. Then she spoke. Her voice was quiet but carried straight into his chest. Leave now. Point two words. Clear. Firm. Michael opened his mouth to ask who she was, what she meant. Nothing came out. Take them. The peace vanished. In its place came a sharp, twisting fear, like a hand squeezing his heart. Something terrible was coming. Right now, he had to move, had to act. The light faded. Darkness rushed back. He woke sitting straight up in bed, heart slamming against his ribs, breath short and ragged, hands shaking. The room looked exactly as it had when he closed his eyes. Laura sleeping beside him, streetlights slipping through the blinds, clock glowing red. 2:47 a.m. He stared at the ceiling, trying to slow his breathing. Just a dream. Brains do strange things when you're exhausted. Too many hours on ladders. Too little food at lunch. That's all. He wiped sweat from his forehead and tried to lie back down. The words would not leave. Leave now. Take them. They repeated inside his skull, louder each time, like someone standing right behind him shouting. The fear grew. Not vague worry. Specific. Urgent. As if every second he stayed in bed was dangerous. Michael sat up again. Looked at Laura. Looked at the bedroom door. Looked at the clock. 2:49. He swung his legs over the side of the mattress. Bare feet hit the cold floor. Laura. She stirred. Get up. She opened her eyes slowly. What time is it? Almost 3. We need to leave. She sat up halfway, confused. Leave? Michael, what's wrong? I had a dream. His voice came out rough. A woman. She told me to leave. To take the kids. Laura blinked. A dream? It wasn't normal. It felt real. She said, get out now. Take them. Laura reached for the lamp. Soft yellow light filled the room. She studied his face. You're shaking. I know. Michael, you've been working yourself to death. You barely ate dinner. This is your body telling you to rest. He shook his head. It wasn't that. I can't explain it. But we need to get the kids and go outside. Right now. She stared at him. 15 years together. She knew when he was serious. She had never seen this look before. Wide eyes, tight jaw, hands clenched like he was holding on to something slipping away. Okay, she said quietly. But you explain everything later. He was already moving. Down the hallway. Children's door still cracked open. He pushed it wider. Nightlight glowed faintly. Jacob on his left, Grace on her right. Both asleep, he went to Jacob first. Hand on the boy's shoulder. Gentle shake. Jacob. Wake up. Jacob mumbled. Turned away. Jacob. Now. The boy opened his eyes. Squinted. Dad? What? Get up. We're leaving. Jacob sat up slowly. Leaving? It's the middle of the night. I know. Just get dressed. Quick. Jacob rubbed his face. Is the house on fire? No. Just trust me. Michael crossed to Grace's bed. She slept curled tight, bare in her arms. He touched her cheek. Grace. Sweetheart. Time to wake up. She whimpered. Eyes fluttered open. Daddy. Hey. We need to go outside for a bit. Her lip trembled. It's dark. I know. I'll carry you if you want. She nodded. Michael lifted her quilt and all, cradled her against his chest. She was small, warm, still half asleep. Laura appeared in the doorway wearing her robe over pajamas, coats draped over her arm. Jackets, she said. It's cold. Jacob pulled on his hoodie. Grace let Laura help her into a fleece. No one spoke much. The house felt too quiet. Too normal. They moved down the stairs single file. Michael first with Grace. Jacob behind. Laura last. Michael opened the front door. October air rushed in, sharp, biting. Street empty. No lights in any windows. Pickup sat in the driveway, frost already forming on the windshield. Into the truck, Michael said. Jacob climbed in back. Laura buckled Grace beside him. Michael started the engine. Heater blew cold at first, then warmer. He left the headlights off. No need to wake neighbors yet. They sat there. Engine idling. Dashboard clock. 2:58. The minutes passed. Jacob crossed his arms. Dad, what are we waiting for? I don't know, Michael admitted. Something. Laura looked at him sideways. Michael, I think the woman in the dream was the Virgin Mary. The words hung in the cab. Laura's breath caught. Jacob leaned forward between the seats. Grace lifted her head from Laura's lap. The statue on the mantel? Laura asked quietly. Michael nodded. Same blue. Same feeling. No one answered right away. The heater hummed. Clock ticked to 3:03. Grace whispered. I'm cold. Laura pulled her closer. Jacob shifted. Can we go back in? I have a test. Soon, Michael said, but the urgency had not left. If anything, it pressed harder. Point 3:05. 3:07. 3:10. Laura sighed. Michael, maybe it really was just a sudden gust slammed the truck. Not wind. A blast. Branches whipped overhead. The whole vehicle rocked. Then the crack, loud, deep, like bone breaking. Everyone turned toward the house, in the backyard an old oak. There since before they bought the place. Leaned sharply. Trunk splitting. Roots tearing free. It fell in slow motion, massive crown sweeping down, straight toward the roof, straight toward the second-floor bedroom. The impact shook the ground. Wood splintered. Shingles flew. Glass shattered. The house groaned once, then went still. Dust rose in the dark. N01 moved. Michael stared at the hole now torn open in the roof. Stars visible through it. Branches sticking out like broken fingers. That he opened the door and ran. Michael burst through the front door. Dust hung thick in the hallway like smoke. Pieces of plaster crunched under his boots. The smell hit him first. Wet wood, broken leaves, earth torn open. He took the stairs 2 at a time, breath burning in his throat. At the top he stopped. The children's bedroom door hung crooked on one hinge. Beyond it, the room no longer existed as it had. A jagged hole gaped in the ceiling. Moonlight poured through. Branches thrust down like fingers reaching for the beds. The massive trunk of the oak had driven straight through the center of the space. Jacob's bed was flattened, mattress folded double, frame splintered into matchsticks, pillow crushed beneath a thick limb. Grace's bed lay in 2 pieces. The canopy she loved torn away, headboard snapped clean off. Shards of glass from the window glittered on the floor. Leaves still fluttered down slowly, settling on the wreckage. Michael's knees buckled. He dropped to the floor, hands pressed against the cold wood. He stared at where Jacob's head would have rested, at the spot Grace curled into every night with her bear. If they had stayed, if he had listened to reason, if he had waited 1 more minute. He heard footsteps behind him. Laura reached the doorway first. She froze. Her hand flew to her mouth. A small sound escaped, half sob, half prayer. My God! Jacob appeared next. He pushed past his mother, stopped short, eyes wide, mouth open. He looked at his bed, at the book still open on what was left of the pillow. He could not speak. Grace came last. She clung to Laura's leg. Then she saw. Her face crumpled. She started to cry. Deep, wrenching cries that filled the ruined room. Laura pulled both children into her arms. She held them tight against her chest. You're okay. You're okay. Thank God you're okay. She repeated it over and over, rocking them gently. Tears ran down her face. Thank the Virgin Mary. Thank you, Mother. Thank you. Michael stayed on his knees a long moment longer. Then he stood, legs unsteady. He walked to what remained of Jacob's bed, reached down, touched the crushed pillow. His fingers came away covered in sawdust and dirt. Neighbors' lights began flicking on. Voices called across yards. Everything all right? Someone shouted. Footsteps hurried closer. A firefighter arrived first, truck lights flashing blue and red down the street. He stepped inside carefully, flashlights sweeping the destruction. He looked up through the hole, looked at the family huddled in the doorway. You all get out in time? He asked. Michael nodded. 15 minutes before. The man whistled low. Lucky. That trunk came straight down on the beds. No one survives that. He radioed for more help. Inspected the rest of the house quickly. Structures compromised. No one goes back in tonight. Too dangerous. They moved outside. Neighbors brought blankets. Someone wrapped one around Grace, another around Jacob. The family sat on the curb. Michael kept his arm around Laura. She leaned into him, still holding the children close. The firefighter came back, squatted in front of Michael. How'd you know to get them out? Michael looked at the house, at the branches sticking out of the second-floor window like broken bones. Instinct, he said. The man nodded. He had probably heard that answer before. He did not press. Dawn came slowly. Gray light spread across the street. Coffee appeared from a neighbor's kitchen. Hot cups passed hand to hand. Grace fell asleep against Laura's shoulder. Jacob stared at the ground. Blanket pulled tight. Laura turned to Michael. Her eyes were red but steady. It was her, she said quietly. The Virgin Mary. She warned you. Michael looked at his wife, then at the children, then back at the house. I know, he said that no doubt left. No room for explanations that made the dream small. The blue mantle, the voice, the peace that had turned to urgency. It had all been real. Jacob lifted his head. Dad, I'm sorry for complaining, for getting mad in the truck. Michael reached over, ruffled his son's hair. You don't have to be sorry. You didn't know. But you did, Jacob said. Somehow you knew. Michael swallowed. I had help. Grace stirred, opened her eyes, looked up at her father. We're safe because of you. Michael pulled her closer, held both children, held Laura. The four of them sat there on the cold curb while the sun rose higher. The house stood silent behind them, broken, but empty of the tragedy it could have held. The sun climbed higher. Neighbors kept bringing things, blankets, more coffee, a plate of toast no one touched. The firefighter returned with paperwork. Insurance will cover most. But you can't stay here tonight. Or probably a few weeks. Laura nodded. We'll go to my sister's. Michael stood, looked at the house one last time. The hole in the roof looked even bigger in daylight. Branches still hung down like they belonged there. He walked over to Laura, took her hand. I'm sorry I scared you, he said. She squeezed back. You saved them. Don't apologize. They gathered the few things they could grab from downstairs. Wallets, phones, a change of clothes. Then they drove to Laura's sister's place 20 minutes away. The spare room was small. 2 air mattresses on the floor. But it was warm. Safe. The next day's blurred. Insurance adjuster came. Adjuster photos. Adjuster estimates. Michael called his regular clients, explained he needed time. Most understood. A few did not. He did not care that he started work on the house himself the following Monday. As a carpenter, he knew the steps. Tear out damaged rafters. Inspect for rot. Order new lumber. Every morning, he drove over at dawn. Worked until dusk. Hammering, sawing, measuring twice. The physical rhythm helped. Kept his mind from replaying the crash over and over. Jacob showed up the second day. I want to help, the boy said. He carried a small toolbox Michael had given him years ago. You've got school. I can come after. Please. Michael looked at his son, saw the same determined set to the jaw he recognized in the mirror. All right, but homework first. Jacob came every afternoon. At first he handed tools, held board steady, learned to check for level. Michael showed him how to swing a hammer without bruising his thumb, how to drive a nail straight, how to read a tape measure down to the 16th. They worked mostly in silence, but the silence felt different now, not empty, full of something new. One afternoon, Jacob paused while nailing a joist. Dad, if we hadn't left, Michael set down his saw, looked at his son. Don't finish that sentence. But we almost. We didn't. Michael put a hand on Jacob's shoulder. Because we got out. That's what matters. Jacob nodded, went back to work. But Michael saw the boy's hands shake for a second before he steadied them. Laura and Grace came most days too. They brought thermoses of soup, sandwiches wrapped in foil, cold water bottles. Grace sat on a sawhorse and drew pictures of the new room she wanted. Pink walls, stars on the ceiling, a shelf for her books. Laura watched Michael and Jacob from the yard. Sometimes she joined them inside, holding a flashlight while they worked in the dim attic space. Evenings changed too. At Laura's sister's house, after dinner, Laura still set up the small statue of Our Lady on the side table, lit the candle, knelt, prayed quietly. For the first few nights, Michael sat in the next room, listening. Then one evening, he moved the chair closer, sat beside her, did not speak, just closed his eyes. Stayed. Laura never commented. She simply reached over and took his hand. They prayed together. Jacob and Grace started joining. 4 of them in a circle. Simple words. Thank you for keeping us safe. Help us rebuild. Watch over us. Amen. In long speeches. No pressure. Just presence. Weeks passed. The roof went up first. New plywood, new shingles, black and clean under the November sun. Then the interior. Walls patched. Insulation replaced. Drywall hung. Taped. Sanded. Painted soft cream. Michael saved the children's room for last. He wanted it perfect. One Saturday, he let Jacob and Grace see it unfinished. Grace ran her hand along the new baseboard. It looks bigger. It is, Michael said. Added a little extra space. For books. For your drawings. Jacob looked up at the ceiling. No more leaks. No more leaks. That night, Michael went to the hardware store alone. Came back with a small wooden shelf. Mounted it above the bedroom door. Placed a new image of Our Lady there. Simple, plaster, blue mantle just like the one on the mantle. When Laura saw it, she stopped in the doorway. Tears came fast. You did that, she said. For them, Michael answered. For all of us. She walked over. Hugged him tight. Thank you. The room was finished the next week. Grace's new bed arrived. White frame with a canopy she had picked out herself. Jacob's side had a taller desk for his books. They moved back in on a Sunday afternoon. Neighbors helped carry boxes. Someone brought a cake. The house smelled of fresh paint and sawdust. That first night, they gathered in front of the original statue in the living room. Lit the candle. Prayed as a family. Michael spoke this time. Quiet. Simple. Thank you for the warning. Thank you for keeping my children safe. Help me be the father they need. Amen. Everyone said amen. Grace hugged her father's leg. I love the new shelf. Jacob looked at Michael. Me too. Laura smiled through tears. We all do. Michael looked around the room. At his wife. At his son. At his daughter. At the small light flickering in front of the statue. For the first time in years, he felt the house full. Not just of people, but of something more. Spring turned the corner into summer. Michael cut back his hours slightly. Still took jobs. Decks needed building. Roofs leaked after storms. But he turned down overnights. Came home for dinner 4 nights a week. Sat at the table while Jacob talked about school projects. Grace showed drawings of horses with blue saddles. He listened. Asked questions. Put his phone away. The backyard changed too. The old oak stump got ground out by a crew Michael hired. In its place, he turned the soil himself. Planted roses, hybrid teas, the kind Laura had pointed out at the garden center years ago. Pink blooms for grace. White for peace. Red for the Sacred Heart. They took root fast in Virginia clay. By July, the bushes stood knee-high, buds opening one by one. Laura knelt there most mornings with a watering can, touching petals like old friends. You remembered, she said one evening, arm linked through his. Couldn't forget. Every night ended the same. Living room. Statue on the mantle. Candle lit. Family knelt in a loose circle on the rug. Laura led sometimes. Michael other times. Jacob read from a children's prayer book. Grace clutched her bear during the Hail Mary. No one rushed. Words simple. Protect this house. Keep us close. Thank you for that night. Point one evening after prayers, Grace ran upstairs ahead. Michael followed to tuck her in. She held out her bare, old one, the one from that night. Its body was new fabric, stitched by Laura from leftover quilt scraps. Head still original, one ear floppy, eyes mismatched after the fall. Grace hugged it tight. He survived too, she said. Michael sat on the bed edge. Touched the patch seam. Just like you. She nodded. The lady told you. Because Mom prays. He smoothed her hair. Yeah, she does. Downstairs, Jacob waited by the mantel. Dad, can I ask something? Anything. Why'd she pick you? You never prayed before. Michael looked at the statue. Blue mantle caught the candle flicker. I don't know. Maybe because I needed it most. To protect you. Her kids. Jacob thought that over. Nodded. Makes sense. Michael clapped his son's shoulder. Get some sleep. Science test tomorrow. Upstairs, Grace had already drifted off, bare under her chin. Michael stood in the doorway. Watched them both. Jacob climbed into his own bed across the room. Lights out. House quiet. That night, Michael did not dream. But in the morning, he woke early. Walked downstairs. Lit the candle himself. Knelt alone until Laura joined him. Months piled into a year. The roses grew taller than the fence. Neighbors stopped by for clippings. Jacob turned 13, helped Michael on bigger jobs, framing walls, hanging cabinets. Grace started altar server training at the parish. Laura added a small outdoor grotto by the rose bed, simple stones, statue copy, solar light. Michael never spoke much about the dream. Not to outsiders. Firefighter asked once more during a follow-up inspection. Michael said instinct again. Inside the family, they called it what it was. Grace. One afternoon, while clearing brush, Grace found the bear's original stuffing under the porch, matted fur ball, stuck in a crack. She held it up. Look, he lost this. Laura sewed it back inside that night. Whole again. Family gathered around. Watched the needle pull thread. Michael held the candle steady. Like us, Jacob said. Michael nodded. Exactly. The bear went back to Grace's bed. Survived one more night. And another. Some call these things coincidence. Wind shear on an old tree. Good timing. Michael knew better. 15 minutes. 2 beds crushed. For lives spared. Blue mantle in the dark. Voice clear as day. You live one way for years. Work. Eat. Sleep. Then one night changes everything. Not because you asked. Because she saw. Acted. Drew you in. The house stands stronger now. Roof holds against storms. Roses bloom through winter freezes. Family prays without thinking. Together. Before we finish, if this story moved you, if you felt even a small stir of hope, write blue mantle in the comments below. That robe Michael saw in the light. The same one that covers families in danger every day. I read every one, and every blue mantle reminds me that Our Lady still speaks in the night. If you want to stay close to these stories of grace, subscribe and turn on notifications. Share this with someone who needs to remember that no danger is too sudden, no warning too quiet for her protection. May the Virgin Mary watch over your home, whisper when you need it most, and keep your children safe under her care. Amen.